Welcome and hello to Low Five Gaming. I am Luke, and this is my co-host and brother, Alex.
Yo, what up, bro?
How you doing, Santa man? You got a cute little hat. We love it here.
Ho, ho, ho. I'm doing well, dog. I'm doing well. I do have my Santa hat on today. It is December, bro.
It is December, and we're gathered here today to deck the halls and play games, dude. I don't know what to
Yeah.
say there. The Santa theme only can go so far with me. But we are here to talk about Against the Storm.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, things have been going good, but the rain's coming.
The rain is coming, not the
I got
snow.
my folk making more fucking raincoats and shit. I got the tavern going.
You got your
I had to
production
move
chain
my logger
popping.
camp.
Yeah, you got your production chain popping.
Indeed.
Yeah, this is you do a few for them and then you do one for you occasionally. And this is, when we get into niche future retro games, we're in the Alex zone, and when we're doing some grimy ass city builder type strategy games, we're in the Luke zone. And here we are, man. How'd you do? How'd you survive? Good times.
Feel like I'm firmly in Luke's pocket. That's how I feel. But
Yeah,
no, good, man. I do love this type of game as well. I would say in our youth, like it was something that I was like super into these real-time strategy type games, with you kind of over my shoulder watching, and
sure.
then you kind of
Sure.
took a you run with them. I would I would say that in our adult life, you have given yourself fully to the
Yeah.
RTS.
And this one's like even more like niche city kind of builder like, but also needs to be mentioned that this is firmly within the realm of games where if you're playing it before you go to bed, I'll wake up and have like weird obsessive thoughts about this
Mm.
game and how things are
Mhm.
going. So just a general warning that if you want some weird psychotic half dreams, this is the type of game to get your brain working a little harder and addicting.
Against it is addicting, dude. It also, I'm not gonna lie, it gets my anxiety going from time to time.
Yeah, and it's got some cool mechanics into it that make it even more stressful. Not in a bad way, more of a strategy way, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So if you're like, hey, what is Against the Storm? It is produced or developed by Emirate Games, not the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia or anything like that. You can see where you might think that though. And published by Hooded Horse Publishers, which they have some cool other nerdy strategy games I've enjoyed in the past as well. Like Old World is a really cool Civ competitor made from the guy who was like the lead on Civ 4. So if you're an
Oh,
old head
okay,
strategy
interesting.
bro, you might be into Old World if you haven't heard of it yet. And then a super niche and deeply nerdy, awesome Soviet game about communism city building. And lastly, Manor Lords, which was like a pretty big smash hit through Xbox Game Pass and such within the last year. So yeah, well known for this zone. Is released back in 2023. You and I talked earlier. There's a big DLC that has dropped that has boosted its recent popularity too,
Right.
and it's had frequent updates that just keep adding free content to the game as well, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. It was fun to see. I mean, we're, nearing the end of the year, and I didn't know much about this game. I think you maybe had mentioned it to me, or maybe that you were like, I don't know, curious about
Been on
it.
my radar for a minute, yeah.
Right. So it's cool, you actually gifted it to me on Steam. Thanks for that, bro. That's tight.
Oh yeah, yeah. Goes without saying,
um
you know.
but so it was fun to get into it and like learn a little bit more about it. Definitely fun to play the game. I think I was telling you off mic that this is one of those games where I poured not a ton of time into it. It's one of those games that I put about 10 to 12 hours into it for this pod. Of course, I was peeking on your hours, so I know that you put in about 3 times that.
Yeah, just got over
um
30. It's funny, I play it almost exclusively on the Steam Deck though. So like there's been
Interesting.
times where I've thought I've played upwards of 50 because you leave it on sleep and then for a second it
Okay,
says it.
okay.
So I thought I had like some crazy hours at once. I was like, I wasn't time traveling that hard.
But I bring it up though, like the time put in though, because one, you're right, it is one of those time traveling games where you get into the groove and you're like, oh shit, like a few hours has passed. It's time for me to shut this thing down.
Yeah.
But more so, it is a game that I feel like I have finally started to wrap my head around how to do things. It took a few hours to, and that's pretty typical of a city builder esque type game like this. I'm starting to feel more comfortable with the things that I'm doing. Also realizing that I am only just scraping the surface. I think that this game lends itself to hours and hours of gameplay. it is reductive, but true that this game is considered a roguelike city builder. I think I've heard floating around the internet.
Yeah. So my description is actually handheld tactical city building roguelike. That's what I
Right
wrote
on.
down. Yeah, that I feel like that crystallizes it. And if you read on its Steamy page, they would tell you that it's a dark fantasy city builder where you must rebuild civilization in the face of apocalyptic rains. As the Queen's
Yeah.
viceroy, lead humans beavers. Did you think those were beavers before you read it? Or were you like, the
I thought
fuck?
they're a
Those are
little
beavers?
I mean, I
Like
can see the
dwarf,
beaver thing, but it's
roasty
more like a
dudes?
dwarf. It had dwarf
Yeah.
vibe for me.
So when I first read those with beavers after seeing the art, I was quite confused. But anyway, lizard foxes and harpies to reclaim the wilderness and secure a future. It's a pretty crazy game, pretty obscure, but yes,
Wow.
roguelike city builder is correct, which is two genres that aren't often mixed together.
No.
So that's kind of part of why. And the setting is cool. Like as much as I, you know,
Yeah, there's definitely like an overarching story to it that brings it all together and kind of works. Like there's this weird, you're the viceroy in the sense that you're like going out and you're, I don't know what you say, you like
going on
you're
expeditions, they call them, to close
right.
gates or
Right.
something. The dark fantasy does some, it just kind of helps set up the gameplay loop, which
Sure.
is, you go on these little runs essentially like you would in a roguelike, but city builders can get
And I don't
fairly
know if it's fair
detailed
to
and
call them
crazy.
little, dude. Like, yeah, I don't know how much time you're
Medium-sized
putting in there.
runs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I
Well,
think that's
in
been
the world of a city builder though, like in City Skylines 2, I've probably pumped 10 hours into highway traffic of one
right.
run. So like in
Sure.
this, like a run probably takes you about an hour, hour and a half.
Right.
So to scale, yeah, it is medium, but it gets gnarly. You're not wrong.
Which is weird though, dude. Like, and that's what makes this game so much different for me, anyways, compared to different city builder real time strategy games that I've played. In the sense that you pour an hour and a half time into making your new expedition, your new like city work, and then you basically accomplish the feat that you set out for on that run. And they're like, okay, come back to
Yeah.
come back and let's do it all over again. And it's like, whoa, you can mind you can choose to continue rocking and rolling with it.
Yeah.
But like that's for the first
You
couple
could for Zen and like fluidity,
right.
but I think it'd be helpful if you're a listener who hasn't played the game or watched a video. I think about it a lot when I play it. Is there's three main gameplay loops. There's like keeping your dudes alive, building up your typical production chains. Like you made a joke earlier about getting coats, but like getting the preferred type of meats, keeping them happy, keeping them alive because there's different events that keep happening in the game and like storms and like bad things. So that's like one of the main loops. And then there's like a constant exploration task type of loop. You send your loggers out and you clear and you find these things called glades or like areas in whatever generated map you're in with the different biomes. Getting pretty niche here, but it's helpful. So there's that aspect where you're completing tasks to complete your mission, which is keeping that, getting enough points or whatever to complete the mission and quote unquote build the settlement, versus what they call impatience, which is like this ticking clock that you can slow down or revert. But this ticking clock where sometimes you like literally fail said mission, you don't establish the colony. And regardless of your outcome, though, it feeds back into the third loop, which is like the overworld. You come back to that after winning or failing, and you get like these resources that you come back with you as a reward. And then you build up different upgrades, kind of build up your keep essentially, and like the things that go out into those expeditions. And that's where the roguelike part comes in because you're constantly having these missions, these settlements, and then you're bringing it back and you're upgrading all these different systems back home. And let me just breathe after that one. But I felt like it's going to be really helpful to people enjoying listening to this game and what we're going about and doing.
100%, dude. For the people, a quick plot breakdown from the wiki. This game is set in a fantasy world eternally ravaged by the Blight Storm. The only safe haven in this world is a smoldering city ruled by the Scorched Queen. Occasionally, the storm subsides, and the Scorched Queen sends her viceroys to establish settlements with the purpose of gathering supplies for the smoldering city until the Blight Storm hits again, destroying all settlements in the process.
Yeah, so you do those three things, and it's dope.
So that's your loop.
It's addicting, and it's kind of hard. And I've been playing it for 30 hours. As you said earlier, and even to this point, like there's entirely new systems that the game's like, you're ready for this now? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
I do feel that this is a game I'll keep in my rotation for quite some time because, like I was saying, I have only scratched the surface. I can tell there's more to it, and it's an addicting game loop. Like I do like going in, and I do feel that there's a lot to be squeezed out of this game.
Are you playing on your desktop or the Steam ED?
Both, but I do prefer playing on the desktop if I'm being honest.
Oh, really? Because
Mhm.
part of the reason that it's going to remain in my rotation, and then one of the reasons I picked it, is I've specifically heard this game runs really well and was optimized really well on the Steam Deck, and is Steam Deck verified. I'm pretty nerdy about my strategy games, so you'd think the Steam Deck would help me with that. A lot of the games I'm into are very mouse
Mhm.
centric, and like, yeah, you can get an attachment for the Steam ED, but like laying in bed, I'm not trying to also bust out the mouse.
Sure,
So this game, dude, runs so nice on the Steam Deck. It's going to
it
get some
does.
extra play for me simply because it scratches a specific itch combined with the handheld. I can be like a time traveling, grimy strat city building nerd boy in bed.
No, I feel you 100%. They optimize it quite well for the Steam Deck, and it utilizes actually all of the aspects of the Steam Deck
Yeah,
nicely,
like the trackpad,
including the
especially.
trackpads.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the trackpads this is actually the most I probably use a trackpad on the Steam Deck, and it
easily,
just works so
easily.
well.
Yeah,
So I'd have to give kudos to them for figuring that out. It does work really nicely. But that said, I do. I mean, it's still a real time strategy game, and it's still like very nice with the mouse. I tell you what.
yeah, and I'm sure like looking around the map, and yeah, I should do it on here too, just to let like just to know what the next level is, man. Like if I play it on like a higher difficulty, because then you just
Yeah.
like the rewards for each run or settlement are scaled based on the difficulty you're playing on. So like
I have the tendency
maybe
to be pretty anal and pretty like particular about these things. So
yeah,
like for me, once I like figured out how to set up these camps in little cities, whatever these then I was like, okay, well now I want them to look pretty and I want my paths to like go the right way and like that kind of
man, you
thing.
lay
And so
down
being
paths
able
like
oh
consistently.
hell yeah, dude, you got to it. It speeds up the time that you guys like take to get to and from when they're collecting resources and
I
shit.
suppose it's so chaotic for me because those missions I talked about, there's like the missions are crucial for surviving, quite literally to get like the points to move on, but also like you
Hmm.
get the crown essentially like sends you a bunch of supplies for completing missions to help your little
Right.
fledgling settlement. A lot of times, what the map is giving me, because it's randomly generated, right? What the
Yep.
map versus what I need for the mission versus what I need to keep my villagers happy are all frustratingly a little different. When you
Yes.
first played, it's almost like the deck building ones, how you have different cards that like do different like abilities and things. Cause like you have to select which upgrade or package you're gonna get all the time. So like with the buildings that you need to do the different tasks,
Hmm.
do you wait for the missions before you start picking those? Or were you just picking those based on what's around you? Because
uh,
that was a big
so
turning point to surviving for me was to waiting on all those upgrades and choices to figure things out first.
yeah, it kind of depends. Like as I've learned this game, because over time, like because I think they kind of throw you in. It's not super. It's tricky, overwhelming, right? Because like I
Yeah,
was like, I get it, I get what's happening. And then I would probably be 45 minutes into my settlement, like this is fucking like ridiculous. I don't know what's going on here, and you know,
slammed by events. Yeah.
totally. But then you start to learn once you learn, like if you hover over buildings and stuff, or you hover over resources, it tells you what buildings, then the little info bubble that pops up or whatever will tell you what buildings you can use to extract those resources. And it's
Hmm.
like you start to figure out how to get the game to work for you. But to answer your question, I have a better relationship with those cards than I used to because they're on a timer. So they unlock as you go through. I can't remember the full number, but you basically get 2 to 3 at a time that you get to select, and then they give you 3 options where you get to choose. And it took me a while to realize, okay, I can look at this and I can figure out, okay, I know that my map has this type of thing, or I'll see that like they're asking you to do a certain thing or like have a certain amount of items. And then I can realize, well, I already have, 75% of the items I need for this particular task. So I'm going to go with that one because I know I can accomplish it. Or I realize that if they're asking me to do something that there's going to be a long ass time before I have the buildings that I need to produce a certain thing that they're asking for in this task. So I'm not going to go with that because it doesn't make sense for me. But that
Yeah.
was a learning experience.
It's a learning curve, and that's kind of why the whole like roguelike, you do a settlement and maybe your settlement fails, maybe you pass, but regardless, you're moving on. Even if
Right.
you're crushing it, you're moving on. I think that makes the learning curve, and then you go back to the settlement, do your fucking upgrades, and then you're kind of excited about how the upgrades are going to help you the next run. So that's why the marriage between the roguelike elements and the city building, it's a unique combo. And this
Right.
podcast was going to cover a game like that because we have covered a decent chunk of roguelikes, or at least in our side questing and stuff.
Sure.
And we are not afraid of that or a city builder. So what
Right.
a
That
unique
was
and kind of
really
crazy game.
100%, dude. I think an interesting part of this gameplay loop too is that you get dropped on your map and you have you're confined to a certain amount of space and you're surrounded by wooded areas and you send your logger camps out and you basically there's these different pockets that you can see. They're covered, they're shrouded in mystery, and they might tell you that there's like some sort of danger over there, right?
Yeah.
And it might be marked that there is no danger, it's just a pocket. And then when you log the trees and enter that area, it reveals that part of the map, and then each one will either have new resources or it'll have like a new task or a new like challenge within that I thought was really interesting.
Danger. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spicy and very stressful, but once again, big rewards for completing the tasks. And you have to like send your villagers out specifically to either gather the materials, separate than like resource, it's like crates essentially, or like combating something. And sometimes it's cool when you like rebuild structures that helps you like with the benefits within the map. So yeah, you're doing like a lot of different crazy stuff in the game. So I really like it, but I can see where strategy games already take like a few hours of stress before you have even the smallest amount of fun. This game is definitely not saved from that. So
I
some
know,
things
man.
you're frustrated about, like that's got to be it, dude.
It's funny, and I mean, I'll mention again, like I basically started to get the hang of things, feeling good about it, and then and I'm not even to a point like I know because I've seen the overworld map, and like I've only unveiled a little bit of it, so I know there's going to be more and more to do. I know that you mentioned that there's more characters. I basically I'm still sitting with the main three: the humans, the beavers, and the lizards. So I
Mm,
think you listed off. There's two more. Is that right?
yes. I have the harpies. I think
Okay.
I have the foxes too. And I think
Okay.
that maybe even with the update, it's the update of the DLC. There's like another race as well. So it keeps getting deeper and deeper.
Right, so that's just it, dude. Like I know for a fact that even though I finally got my head wrapped around what I'm doing, kind of on this like base level stuff, it's gonna just keep slapping me with more layers of gameplay, which is one part exciting and one part like a little bit of anxiety driving because I'm like, oh man, or is anxiety inducing rather because it's like, oh man, this game is like it's just gonna hit me with like more complex stuff as I keep going, but that's also kind of fun, you know.
Yeah, no. If it was back in the day too, like when I was a little teenager, I probably would have gotten all to the deep, deep nitty gritty. But you know what? I didn't think I was going to spend the insane amount of hours in Slay the Spire that I did, and here we are.
Fair, fair.
So sometimes the game starts off and you don't think you'll be there, and then it kind of hooks you with different stuff. But there's like a whole blight system that I got
Mhm.
introduced to like 10, 15 hours back, and I've just ignored.
So is that the Blightstorm stuff where you have to pay attention to how the storm's working, or
Um, It's like you connect like these geysers, not geezers, silliness. At least I corrected
jumping into
myself.
chasms, bro?
Yeah, at least I knew. Some geysers that like connect up some water system to like some steampunk stuff because it's like dark fantasy and
Yeah.
there's like a steampunk steam engine type element that boosts your efficiency, but like this thing called blight, which is this corruption, so you have to balance that. To me, that just sounds deeply overwhelming on top of everything else we've been talking about. But maybe on a higher difficulty, like that efficiency is so key that it's a worthy gamble. So
Yeah, it'll
it's
be interesting to
insane depth.
find
It's
out.
insane depth.
I think it's, even by because it took me quite a few hours before I started going in and reading what my different buildings were supposed to be doing and making that connection to
Yeah.
resources and everything. And it's like, dude, I don't know what's going on with me, but like every game I'm always like, and it's not like, dude, I'm an English major. I know how to read, dog. Like I'm not like beyond reading. And I don't know what it is about video games, but I'm like, I can read that shit. And then I find myself once I finally like read whatever, and then I'm like, okay. And then everything starts to come together because I spent the time to read something.
Oh man. Yeah.
But I think it's funny, like it's like I haven't reached some of this stuff, but just by reading some of the things about different buildings and how things work, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get interested because there's you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but the whole like there's all this technology that apparently I'll be able to unlock later that is powered by the rain and the storms and stuff. And like right now, I have like little rain collectors and whatnot that I'm not even entirely sure what they do. Actually, I do know what they do. Like they are used for some of like the mills and other things to make certain products, but it took me a while to figure out.
Tea and ale and things like that. Yeah. And then you're like, all right, I need beer. So you like unlock the thing that like makes you brew beer, and then you're brewing beer, and they're like, hey, dude, we're out of jars or like leather sacks to put this beer. And I'm like, ugh.
Dude,
what do you call those leather sacks that you drink? Dad is such a dork. He like would drink out of those on like vacations and shit, like the leather
like
bags.
wine skins or whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to dunk on Dad real quick for his dorky old man hydration back in the day.
Nah, dude, it's 100%. And it's like all the different buildings as you move on, there's so many layers to this game, dude. It's so deep. And you unlock newer buildings, and then different buildings will have different efficiencies than others. So you might need like planks early game, like producing planks was such a headache to me until I figured out that, okay, like I can make I forget what they call it, but there's like a makeshift camp type thing where you can make some planks, but then you can get a lumber mill, which helps you make like produce faster planks. You also can
lower cost.
Yeah, and you can also prioritize certain things because like the mill will be able to allow you to make a few different things. And if you are short on planks or something like that, you can prioritize planks. There's a lot of depth to this game. Like you have a lot of control over how things are going.
Have you ever gotten like a pub and a church and like another function, like city function, all up and running in a run, or no?
No, because well, I mean, yes and no. Like, what do you mean? Like, where are you going?
Just the point where like you have all the services and your people are just like max happy and you're actually just like crushing it, like, because that does feel good. There's been times where
then
like
they pull you out the game because it's a roguelike.
yeah, it is true. Like everyone's finally happy, whereas other times I'm playing, people are like dying and leaving, and I'm like, no, we need to finish this task, get back. I suppose that's how colonization and settlement would really work, though.
Sir, have you are you able to go back to one of your settlements after you've left them? I don't think you can.
No, I don't think you can either. Interestingly enough, like it's like a overboard, kind of like a board game, kind of like look to it, aesthetic. Yeah, it's got that aesthetic to it. And like you trade, like traders come.
I wanted to talk about the traders. That was another thing that kind of
traders are lifelines and just like a whole thing that you really are helpful. But then when you set up some specific trade routes with your other settlements in the main smoldering city or whatever, like that's an element to the game that you can take it or leave it. I kind of use it to complete specific missions sometimes if I'm set up for it. But like you trade with your other settlements, the deeper in you go. And then I guess we could mention like another roguelike factor is you get like a certain amount of settlements out, and then there's a big storm and that wipes out that overworld map that we just talked about, and you start off at just the city, and then you move out from these tiles for your new settlements to try to get to one of those gates, which I can confirm is like a special event game that you play where you have like different tasks. You have the city's tasks, but you also have like the gate tasks, and then that lets you build more settlements / attempts before the big storm happens, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not as far in that respect. Again, I was kind of curious too, because as you move out on that overworld map that I mentioned, kind of looks like Catan, or if you played like Civilization, like it's very similar, like tile based in a way.
Yeah, or Risk, like kind of in a way.
On that overworld map, there's it's kind of similar to in-game where things are shrouded in mystery. They're shaded off or whatever, right? But you have little interest points that I assume that you want to. And again, if I probably would have done a better job of like reading what I was supposed to be doing, maybe I would know why I was going a certain direction.
You friggin' nerd, dude. Yeah. They're like modifiers to your game, essentially. So when you pick your next settlement,
click on, like, it lets me get close to the one I'm trying to head to. If I'm just not like uncovered enough of that area, or
maybe you're not close enough, but maybe the question mark, like if you do the hexagonal tile next to whatever it is, you're getting the boost or benefit or drawback, whatever it happens to be in the game, the modifier, so to speak. And like sometimes it has to do with affecting the biome. Sometimes it's like a blessing, so to speak. Sometimes it's like a curse or like something that deals and makes it harder for you. So It's just kind of always keeping it fresh, which goes back to the roguelike part where if you're it kind of always gives you different and newer challenges so you don't have to come up with them on your own or get bored in a sandbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting.
Like it goes away from your typical city building sandbox stuff with that, which is a really cool device.
Can you beat this game, or does it go on forever?
Man, I thought about looking that up before this podcast, and that's what a professional would have done.
Yeah, you don't want to
But
spoil it for yourself either, though, dude.
considering the massive, I'm sure there's some sort of roadmap with the massive
There's probably
DLC
an
and
end
stuff.
game.
I'm sure there's multiple different things, right, that you can
Right.
accomplish or do. And I have so much more of that like base building stuff to do, like all those upgrades to do, even. And it's there's so
Yeah,
much.
it's
There's so
wildly
much going
complex.
on, dog.
It's wildly complex, which
Yeah.
is part of its charm. It's definitely part of its charm, but it can be a lot. Overall, it's been a pretty great experience, I would say. And like I said, it's something I want to continue continue to delve into. Like I guess I foresee this game being played for a long time.
Hell yeah. If you had to rate it out of a category 5 hurricane type storm, dude, which category which category would you give it, dude?
I'm tempted. I'm gonna go 4.
Wow.
I'm gonna
All
go
right.
4.
I hope to see you playing it. I hope to see those hours creep. That's encouraging. I'm gonna give it a full 5. I'm not saying it's a master. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece, like one of my favorite games ever, but the fact that it's so playable and like not just playable, but like downright enjoyable on the Steam Deck really enhances the amount of hours I would put into this game. And it is super complex, but you do become fluid and it is fun and fast paced and like refreshable enough to the point where like if I'm going traveling, if I'm away from the house, all those types of things, the fact that I can bring a strategy game that kills this much time with me, like if I were on a plane, dude, I'd just crush this game for 2-3 hours straight and it'd be sweet.
For sure, dude. When I said I was
So
tempted, it's
give it a
because
full
I
5.
was tempted to give it a 5, but I go 4, and I'm glad you gave it a 5 because that brings us to 4 or 5, 4.5 rather. And I don't like doing halves, but our average will bring us there, and that's perfect, dude.
What a dork.
Dude, 100%. But
Yeah.
then the knocks are purely. It's not necessarily against the game, and it's actually kind of a benefit to it. But I mentioned that I think it was pre-recording, but I mentioned that I got booted from a run that I was in because they had pushed through an update. Which the updates, that's great. I'm glad that they're doing the updates, but it also means that it's not 100% there quite yet. But they're working on it. So like that's it's a little unfair for me to give them a knock for that. But I was bummed when I got kicked out of like, a settlement that I had spent 45 minutes to an hour in. They're like, but in their defense, they let me keep all of the boons that I would have got from that run. I just didn't get to finish it. So I think, I'm kind of talking myself into a 5 here, but I'm going to stick to my guns on a 4.
Wow. Maybe you do a 4.5 and we give it a 4.75 average, dude.
Oh
Nah,
man.
I'd say it's sick. And my criticisms of the game all come with the territory. Like, it's just like, it can be stressful. Well, that's actually kind
Right.
of part of the fun.
That's part of it, right?
Yeah. And like, there's a huge learning curve, but that also means that it's in depth and there's more and more and more to do. It's actually pretty easy to learn if you give it an hour or two. It's faster than some of the other ones I've played, that's for sure.
Right on.
But
And
all
I
right.
think it's unique, dude. I think it's unique too. That's which there are a lot of these like city builder strategy games. Like they got I'm not going to say that they're not also unique ones out there, but I think there's this like it's just wild to me, like the weird story that they've incorporated to it, and it kind of just makes everything work, and it puts you in a nice little situation.
Roguelikes, your late 20s to 30s. It's just roguelikes, just our era of life. I feel like roguelikes that's been like the newest, like the coolest innovation that gaming has done and really focused on, I think, in the last, since we've been podding, I feel like is roguelikes. So I'd like to see that one was executed so well with this genre mix up. Yeah.
I can dig it, man. With that, you want to take a little break, come back with our unsanctioned sponsor?
Yes, sir. me and the boys, dude. Well, the wife, the family and the boys, dude. We met the Grinch the other weekend.
Ooh, right on.
And we knew we were going to meet the Grinch. So we had recently bought the Grinch Dr. Seuss book, which he's not even
Nice.
green in the book. So when did he become green? Just the cartoon, I presume.
Yeah. I guess so.
The boys are at an age where they get really excited to, like, if they learn a word and they remember the word and they see the word out in the wild, they just love to say it. North St. Paul, we got a big snowman. Nobody, no man, and they get super pumped when we drive by it. So we watched The Grinch, and what I wanted to watch was Jim Carrey's Grinch, but he was kind of scary a tiny bit. So I
Yeah,
was like,
dog.
not sure if the boys are ready for that one. The Grinch we met was modeled after that Grinch, to be fair, but he was cool. It was all good. But we watched The Grinch, and I just want to shout out the Jim Carrey Grinch because I looked it up as we watched the new Grinch, and people and critics were hating on Jim Carrey's Grinch. And what the fuck? That is the Grinch. That movie is a top 5 Christmas movie all time. Let's fucking go, dude. This has been brought to you by Jim Carrey's Grinch. What's up? Fight
You're
me.
here for the Grinchmas, dude. All right. It's funny.
Argue
my-
against it. Try me.
Dude, my boy is
Passionate.
a year behind your boys in age, and the Grinch is a little much for him. I tried. I was like, because it's
It's a
Christmas
long
time.
ass book. Are you just talking about the movie?
Oh no, I read him the book. I also recently picked up the book. I was at the old Target, and they got like, dude, I was at the Edina Target because I was out in that area. That place is wild, dude. I was like, dang, not all Targets a bit the same, and Edina Target is ready for Christmas. I would tell you what.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But they've got a whole they had a whole little miniature, not even miniature, but they had this like little deal going on with all these different Christmas books, and I was like, I'm buying Elton the Grinch. I'm gonna do this. But I had tried watching the cartoon with him, like the original cartoon.
Yeah.
That's also like kind of crazy. They got a lot of Grinch out there now, dude. They got Jim Carrey Grinch. I agree, it's good shit, but it's a little much for a 1-year-old to be trying to take in a movie that long. And also like Jim Carrey, I mean, he brings some energy to that movie that maybe
It's
not
like
Elton not ready for.
it's Ron Howard directed it. Fun fact.
Oh, word. Yeah, okay.
And at first it kind of reminded me of like that era Tim Burton, obviously way turned down, but like, man, he's recently said that he would love to be the Grinch again, but he has to do motion capture because I guess putting all that makeup and crazy stuff on was excruciating for him. It's so haunted. I just love it though. Like I'm very passionate about that Grinch. The new one was cool enough though. It's Benedict Cumberbatch.
I haven't seen this new one. I've only heard about the new
It's
Grinch.
fine. It's fine.
Is it live action or like the?
No, it's
like
a
Jim
cartoon.
Carrey's?
It's like a nice animated. It's like 2018. Pharrell is the narrator.
Oh, interesting.
Tyler,
I hear it's not as creepy.
makes
I
him-
hear it's not as
No, it's
scary.
more like cute anime. I think it's made by the same place that did the new Mario movie.
Okay, cool.
That animator, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
They do the
Illumination or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So who knows what's happening with unsanctioned spots or any typical month, but this one I was like, I just really have to cape for Jim Carrey's Grinch right now. And you're wearing a Santa hat, so it was all fair. It was all fair game.
Dude, I can dig it. The book though, it is long. You are not wrong about that. I don't think it's so it's not a book that I can just sit down and read to without it on my lap, but it is a book that I can get to the end to with him when he's when we're putting him when we're doing bedtime or whatever. So that works.
Yeah, I also am amazed how they've stretched it out into so many movies. Because even though it's like a quote unquote long book, like each movie has like a different interpretation as to what Cindy Lou Who's deal is.
For sure.
And in the book, she's just the kid that woke up and was like, "Why are you stealing my shit?" And he's just like, fixing the tree, dude.
Yeah.
And like how the movies like explain all of that is just hilarious.
It is good. They've definitely stretched that story out. And you're right. It's a long book, but it had been a long time because we had that book growing up, dude. And it had been a long time since I actually had read the book proper. And I felt like when I've read it just recently, I got to the end and I was like, oh, that's it. Like, yeah, it's long, but like I'm used to like the cartoon, Jim Carrey's movie and stuff. So I was like, well, where's all this other stuff?
Where's the part where the lady's kind of horny for the Grinch?
Right. Right.
What part of the book was that, dude?
Oh man, I can dig it though. We actually had growing up too. We had the Grinch record, which I pilfered from mom and dad. It's in my record stash right now. Which is there's really great like reading of the Grinch story. It was kind of fun as well. Good Christmas content right there, dude.
think I have it too.
Right
Not the
on.
stolen one.
Grinchmas.
Grinchmas. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey Grinchmas.
Yeah,
All
you been
right.
side questing, bro?
Yeah, sorry. I was just finishing this Who Roast Beast.
Ooh-ha, ooh-ha. I don't
Just
actually know what this good like the little Whoville song is, but
cute. Cute. Yeah. I've just been on the nerdery. I'm not going to talk about NCAA football. That's not allowed. But people on the Reddit refer to when they make up the storylines in their head as head canon. So I'm not positive if I've said that on the internet previously with you before. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate that nerd taxonomy.
head cannon.
Head canon. I think that's a great way to describe just playing sports games and coming up with weird, dorky storylines all on your own the whole time, which is great fun. My other bit is that I've been playing Ratchet and Clank, the new PlayStation 5 one, but on the Steam Deck, which is it's a good game for a Steam Deck, which is the theme of today's episode. But it's weird because we were PlayStation boys for a hot minute there, so all the Ratchet and Clanks I played on PlayStation. So it's weird to not have like the high poweredness of it, but it's not a game that truly really needs it. And it's really good meat and potatoes game of just like it's an action 3D shooter platformer puzzler.
Like the thon or no?
Yeah, there's different elements of that, like upgrading and stuff. So like you have these different fun, wacky guns. That's a big part of it. One thing that I've appreciated about the series going back for years is like your guns upgrade based on use. So it's like another thing to encourage you to always be flipping around through the goofy different guns. Like in the first game, I can't remember if it was the sheepinator in the first game or the chickinator, but like you would turn your enemies into chickens or sheep, which back in 2004 was super cool and fun. And the game's always done like goofy twists like that. You could throw out disco balls and like all your enemies start dancing and get distracted, and then you mop them up. So there's always like fun arcadey stuff to do with that. And now as I'm playing later on in life, I like that like cycle of upgrading your guns and like upgrading them both through resources and upgrading through use. And it's just really addicting and fun and cool. And like, I don't have to think much when I play it. I just lay down and I play some nice wholesome Ratchet and Clank, and I know the
story going on in
formula.
that game.
Sure. And it's fine. And it's got some silly, cheeky humor. And it's just like exploring a map, running into enemies. Just the whole loop is so familiar and good and still fresh that good game, dude.
Nice.
What are you side questing on? What do you got for me?
Yeah, man, I got some side quests, and we vowed not. I don't know, we vowed, but we made us kind of a gentleman handshake across the internet, not to talk about our sports games. But you weaseled in there, so I'm gonna weasel in my 2K experience. I got the new 2K, bro.
It's new though. You can talk about it because I'm curious. Did they upgrade anything? Is anything new, or is this a roster refresh? Are there new?
Definitely a roster refresh. There is some elements to the gameplay proper that I'm used to now. It took me a little bit. The way that you shoot is a little bit different. So
Always seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. So like the 3-point shots nerfed a little bit in this game. It's a big thing that they did because in 2K24 they made it a little too easy to hit threes. So they've nerfed that a little bit with the timing. They have added a ton of motion capture animation that is specific to players like play styles and games. So that's really cool.
Different.
Players feel a lot different. You run around, it's like crazy because it's not something that I noticed while playing 2K24, but juxtaposing the two, 24 feels a little bit arcadey with how fast you can sprint around the court. Whereas like there's an element to that here, but each of the players, they play like the players in real life more so because they've spent so much time getting those animations down. So like their dribble animations, the way they move, the way they take their shots, etc. But you can't just like, I don't know, there's a little bit more finesse going on in this game.
Funny thought, but like the funniest thing about sports games is that the newer they get, the slower.
Yeah.
Like the more advanced it is. Like I've been saying the game in a good way feels slower since like ever. Every new game is always like, well, it's a little slower than I remember. But that's like a good thing because it looks more lifelike and human.
Right.
So you saying that kind of geeked me out because I was like, no way, they keep
Yeah, no,
doing it.
it's true.
Uh,
That is definitely the case.
what's the emphasis on? Is it on like my team? Is it on park stuff? Like,
Yeah,
what are they pushing you
I'm
towards?
sure they
Like,
changed a bunch of that bullshit. They probably did a bunch of that. I always like. I just
just
don't play that though. I do my seasons. Like I do my my they've got what I like in
you're
that game.
so
My
funny.
pocket is within the eras. So like I set up my team. I play through a season. I do the playoffs. Like that's my shit.
I feel like such an old man when I'm like, yeah, I played GM mode or like dynasty mode through the years and I'm
Right.
offline, but it's fine. And then I talk to you and you're like, I'm doing seasons.
Oh, they don't even call it seasons anymore, though. But like, essentially, that's what it is. It's more or less the GM mode type thing that you're doing. Like, I do a little less of that stuff because you can get in the weeds with
Yeah,
that
do
stuff
you
on
like
it too.
draft and stuff, or do you just do a
I don't
year and
even
then you're
fuck with
done?
that, dude. I just play.
That's what I'm saying. You do a season. You're like, don't hit me with them drafts, young
You know what's
man.
funny is I'll play through a shortened full season, and I will play through the playoffs, and then I will I don't even continue because you can continue. I'll just restart because I'm more interested in playing with the folks like the players that I have for the
Keep
current
it on.
season of the Timberwolves.
Sure. Are you playing other games too?
I am indeed. So it's that time of year, dude. So we got Steam sales, we got Black Friday, etc. So I picked up a couple games over the past couple weeks here. One of those games that I picked up on the cheap is a recent one, RoboCop.
RoboCop. What's this about?
So RoboCop is a triple. What would it be? Not triple A. It's a double A game. Can't even remember who put it out. I've actually never seen RoboCop, but
Same.
I've heard some rumblings about this game being really true to the source material. A lot of people that are big RoboCop fans loving the game, and dude, it's fun, man. I've been playing on the Steam Deck primarily, but it works great on both the Steam Deck and the and the PC. Obviously, it's a first person shooter, but
Hmm. Okay.
it has RPG elements to it. So you go around and you like kind of increase your RoboCop's like stats, that kind of thing.
So like a
Uh,
boomer shooter type of thing vibe?
yes and no. Like I wouldn't. Yes, but it's like I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a boomer shooter, but it's definitely a shooter. It's a little bit more polished than what I would consider. It doesn't have the similar art style. It's a little bit more realistic than like a lot of what I consider a boomer shooter to be. The fun thing about that so far is that you move pretty slowly. Like RoboCop is, from what I do know about him. I mean, he's not sprinting around the place. He's like a big like android type thing, right?
Yeah.
And you feel that in the game. You like you feel a little slow. You can move faster by like this sprint thing or whatever, which like the way you move around, it's interesting like how it works. And I've been having some fun with that one. And then I also recently I finally pulled the trigger. I wanted Call of the Lamb on for my Switch for a long time, and it's only $20, but I like just haven't, for whatever, I've been like waiting for a deeper sale. And I don't know if it'll ever come because Black Friday came around and they're like Black Friday sale. And I was like, that's what you always sell it for, which is like, which is like the funny thing about Black Friday these days. But I didn't get a ton of time into that, but that's a really fun one, dude. Like, it feels a lot like Turnip Boy in a way, like mixed with Animal Crossing. So like that one's kind of cool too. And then the other big news, dude, is that we gave up Game Pass some time ago, and I've a couple months back I reached the threshold because I was buying the games that are on Game Pass that I wanted to be part of my Xbox collection. So like Starfield, Forza, that type of thing, like games that you can play on Game Pass. But I didn't want Game Pass anymore. But I wanted to have those games. Like I feel like those are cornerstones of the Xbox like experience, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I wanted to have those, and it's interesting because that put me into a spot now where I have enough Xbox games physical. But the way that these new systems work is like they don't play off, like whereas your Switch is actually playing games off of the cart. It's not the case with PlayStation and Xbox. They're taking all that information on the disc and they're loading it straight to the hard drive of your system. And it has to do with like, that's how we get the quick resume and the quick load times and stuff, because you're not playing off the disc, you're playing off your system. That also means my Xbox, I got the Series X and I've only got X amount of space. I think it's like 2 terabytes maybe, or 1 terabyte. I don't remember. I have enough games now where I don't have enough space on my Xbox to keep all the games on there. So I ended up buying the expansion thing, the terabyte expansion that you can plug into the back of it.
Oh, word.
And with that came a free month of Game Pass.
Oh, so you're playing indie.
Indeed. Nah, so that is the primary game on Game Pass that I'm happy to have this free month, and I might end up just buying indie because having Game Pass back and having Halo and some of these other games that I consider cornerstone pieces of the Xbox experience, I have no desire to keep Game Pass, dude. Like the caveat being Indiana Jones and the beauty of Game Pass is being able to dabble and see some games before buying, right? That's being able to get a little taste. But
Yeah.
like, dude, as far as the library goes, I've been able to go through. My favorite thing about Game Pass is being able to stream those games onto my Steam Deck. And then also to being able to dabble in stuff that maybe I wouldn't be able to try unless you kind of give a little sampler of everything. But I can't justify a $30 a month spend or
Is that
whatever.
what it is now?
I think it might be 20. But like I
Oh,
can't justify a 20-ish dollar a month spend to keep Game Pass because the vast majority of the games on Game Pass I either don't care about or I already have, or already have because they're available through like Epic's free games and things like that. Like a lot of them are always handed out for free for PC.
but what about Diablo 4, dude?
We'll see, but Diablo 4 would be a purchase, but I want to go back and play Diablo 1 first because I've never beat Diablo 1. And shout out to the Main Quest podcast, which is back. They just covered Diablo, and that has me horny for Diablo, dude. I am trying to play some Diablo.
Horny for Diablo.
Yeah, dog.
Horny for Diablo.
And I have Diablo. I have it on GOG, and I did fire that up too. It's another little mini side quest. That's a game that, like, dude, it's see, like I would be tempted to have us play it, but I know that you've kind of moved away from the mouse and keyboard, and it is definitely a mouse game. Like I feel like I've heard that the PlayStation port, and then there's likely patches where you can use a controller, which means you could likely get it rocking on your Steam deck. But no offense, but like there would be some tinkering probably that would need to be done that I don't expect you to do.
He thinks I'm thick. He's right.
But
yeah,
dude,
Diablo. I mean, I would probably do it Diablo's a game where you kind of just got to figure out what's the deal with at a certain point in your life. So
totally.
I'm gonna get 4 for the Steam Deck, but at some point I wouldn't mind playing some Diablo.
Yeah, going back for the one.
So I understand the deal. You know what I mean?
Right. But dude, Indiana Jones, you bring up in that game I played about 45 minutes of, I would say, and it's cool. Like I've been reading the reviews and everything like that. A lot of people loving it, and I can see why. It's got some really good graphics going on. Like the voice acting is actually quite good. The graphics are great. I think it's been a while since Xbox had a win, and I would say Indiana Jones is just that.
Yeah. That's cool to hear. I wishlisted it because I know myself, and I'm not gonna Xbox Game Pass. Maybe you'll get me,
dude.
But I'm gonna see if
that's
these
what I'm
games
saying.
go on sale first.
Dude, the Game Pass I just don't see it being in my life past like because I'm able to get this free month. I'm like, of course, like I'll use that.
But I want to play Flight Simulator 24.
No, you don't. It's trash.
Oh no, it's not good.
Dude, I'll tell you why. Because there's no US Bank Stadium. US Bank Stadium's been in Minneapolis for 8 years, and they still haven't integrated it into the map. It's like, come on. I realize we're flyover country, but fuck off Xbox. Fuck off Microsoft.
Is everywhere just behind, or just certain pockets are behind?
I'm sure New York is updated. I'm sure LA's like cool, but Minneapolis, they like, how you not have US Bank Stadium?
Well, that was a bummer. I remember showing that to people, and they're like, "Where's US Bank?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." On the last game, but this game, you're supposed to like. It had the jobs-based, like flight jobs-based element to it, so I thought that looked cool. Did you try that?
I haven't yet. No, I just set up a flight to fly around Minneapolis, and then I was pissed off that US Bank wasn't there. And
well, it's all burnt down, dude.
What the hell are you talking about? Oh, Minneapolis. Yeah. That's right.
Down,
I forgot.
So, there's nothing to see. That's what it
Indeed.
used to be, man.
It's a hell. I'm gonna look out my window. Yep, checks out. Diablo's been here.
Diablo.
Oh man. So it is a beautiful game. Like, of course that is still the case. But I was just
put out a forest fire, and then you get back to me. All right.
Yeah, that's fair. Those new gameplay aspects do look cool. So I haven't deleted it off my Xbox yet. I will play it a little bit more before my trial is up or whatever you want to call it. My
Gotta use up all them terabytes, Doc. Come on.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy, man. These games, like, I have an extra terabyte, and I've already, like, with all my games, like, I'm already up to 85% full again.
You can reveal next month's game, but I downloaded it because we bought the discs because they were on sale specifically on the disc, which is always an interesting part of Black Friday.
Yeah.
But it was a 72 gig file size. I was like, yeesh.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, all right, that's actually kind of small for a Series X game these days, dude. Like,
I guess.
And that game is, and the game we'll be playing, and for folks that have been for the past year and a half, 2 years, just going, man, I wonder what the Lo-Fi boys think about fucking what's the game we're playing?
Elden Ring.
Yeah. If you're wondering what they think about Elden Ring, they can't even remember what that game's called. Nah, dude, we're finally jumping in, man.
Two worst people to play the game, dads. We'll find out how it works.
Dude,
no interruptions.
I'm stoked though. But dude, Elden Ring's on the docket. I'm excited. If you haven't played Elden Ring yet, if you're like us and you've just been waiting, hit that Discord. Let's talk about it. In fact, even if you have played and you just want to revisit it, you just want to talk to, you want to catch our insights before we talk about it, you join that Discord. Dope that you're out there listening. We love that. We love you. Hit that Discord. And before signing off, Ace. Boy.
Hey Santa, how you doing?
Oh, ho, ho.
You're the freshest shaved Santa. Oh wow, you're the freshest shaved Santa I've ever done, mate. I'm not gonna do that intro. That was bad. That was bad. Trisha, who's not paying attention, just down there laughing at me, dude. This is brutal.
I swear I've been podcasting for 2-3 years now.
Right, but fresh shaved Santa, all right? That's a hard one for me to say. It's like cutthroat.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Yeah. See, all right, so there we go. That's why he's got a beard.
So the sh is difficult.
Yeah, the fresh shaved is a tough transition. Oh, it's just infected my brain now.
Can I get up and do some jumping jacks or something, dude? Like,
nah, I'm good.